Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thoth Thursday. Today, excuse me, I'm going to do a request video. And what I'm doing is separating the cards into their respective suits. Because today we're going to talk about the Tree of Life. I have a Tree of Life video. I actually have a couple. I have a Tree of Life that features the Rider-Waite-Smith up on the channel, but I don't have one for the Thoth, but I do have a Thoth Tree of Life video that goes more into a reading. Like, I use all 78 cards and do a Tree of Life tarot reading. It's a huge spread that I did to learn the Tree of Life. And it really worked out really good. So if you want to catch that, I will leave both of those videos in the cards for you. But today, I wanted to use the Thoth. We'll put the majors over here somewhere out the way. All right. Let's get everything in frame. These cards, this is my big edition, so. There. Now I'm using the Lawn Milo Duquette book. Probably not going to be able to get all these in frame. It's probably okay. We'll probably separate all these once we get into it, okay? Now this is a lowdown, all right? Low. I mean low. Malkuth low, all right? Of the Tree of Life. Now, I don't want to go too quick, but I don't want to go too in-depth either. There's so much complexity with the Tree of Life that I feel we probably wouldn't even cover it all in an hour, okay? However, I wanted to give a lowdown, in the Thoth playlist for the Tree of Life. Now, what I'm going to do first is go, if you see the diagram here, we'll do the Sephirots first. The Sephirots are the 10 circles here, okay? One thing to note before we really get into this is that there are technically 4 trees of life that emanate from one another. They kind of stack on top of one another, making like a Jacob's ladder that leads all the way to the ultimate Keter at the top, okay? And each of the 4 tree of life represents the suits of the tarot, really. So there's earth, air, fire, and water. And we're not really going to talk about the 4, they're called 4 worlds, 4 emanations of the Tree of Life today. But just know that going in, that when we're talking in these generalized Tree of Life terms here, that's really what they are. There's so much more study, so much more that can be put into the Tree of Life than just what we're going to talk about today. But if we take a look at the diagram here, this is, like I said, from Lawn Milo Duquette's book, The Understanding of the Thoth Tarot. We have the 10 Sephirots, and then we have 22 paths. And we'll go a little bit into that, we'll go a little bit into each thing, okay? Now, the 10 Sephirots, most of this is what I get out of research. I will leave some great articles that I've used in the past below in the resource section, as I always do, for you to go check out and research more if you'd like. But we kind of really see the Sephiroths, I see Sephiroths as light, as emanations, and there's so much material. I don't want to call it material. I want to call it more the light from Keter, because Keter is just light. It's the light of God. It's the light. It's the beginning of God, and it's our perception of God, in my opinion. It's not technically what God is. Like, we could go even further than Keter to actually get there, right? And it's a path, okay? So it's called the lightning path, and it goes like this, okay, down to Malkuth. Malkuth kind of hangs down there like a pendant. So it's just the lowest of the low, right? That's all it is. And each Sephiroth represents like this. It has a keyword, and I believe it represents the facets of humanity, okay? Like, not necessarily spiritual complexity, as the major arcanas do, but more the complexities of humanity itself, of life, okay, and all that humans could possibly go through. And what happens is people, mainly Eliphas Levi, have dubbed the top up here, which is now this is the Empress. She's not in the supernal triad, okay? But there's a supernal triad, which is basically like this, the paths that you'll have to choose one to get to Keter. And that is the Fool, the Magician, and the High Priestess, which is this path right here that runs through Dayat, which is like this unknowable Sephirot that sits kind of like here. And the Empress isn't part of that, okay? So just like know that going in. But that's onto the paths. We're going to talk about the Sephiroths first. Now, of course, we have Keter, okay? Now, for me, Keter is light. It's the source. It's source how humans would perceive source. It's our humanity's definition of enlightenment, whatever that means to you. That's what Keter is. And that's the aces. All the aces sit there, okay? As they're the ones, right? They're the purest sense. But it's because they're pure is why they sit up at Keter to me. The beauty of the elements, like when we look at the aces, okay, they represent the purest form of their element, but also the mysteries therein, okay? Now, when we're talking about the mysteries, that just means that fire by itself isn't really fire. It has to mix with oxygen, okay, which is air. And it's in their abilities to mix and shapeshift that makes them so relevant to humanity. All these elements, which is why the minor arcana to me represents so much of a humanity's complexity, that we see all of that complexity in the aces. And that's what Keter is. Now, Keter's keyword is the crown. To me, that just means divinity. That could be self-divinity. That could be your identification of self. Ascension, enlightenment, okay, whatever it is. And then we just separated them into the 4 elements. That's it. Into the 4 major elements. And then, let's see if I can do this. See if I can do this diplomatically, okay? And then we get to the 2s. Now the 2s, you go boop, down to Hokmah. Hokmah is the 2s. Okay, it's ruled by Neptune, of course. And the key word here is wisdom. Now, another thing to note is that these pillars have names. This is the pillar of mercy. And this over here is the pillar of severity. Now, all that means is the balance of nature. Okay, this dichotomy that's ruled humanity forever is this good versus evil. But really, severity and mercy to me is just the difference between ruthlessness, not even so much cruelty, but ruthlessness versus compassion. And you have to kind of know how to mix and shapeshift those as well. This concept of ruthlessness, cruelty, almost like this divine restlessness. This drive that backs you, this fire in your butt that just drives you forward. And then you have compassion, this receptivity that you have, that you want to suck in everything like a sponge. So I guess just know that going in, is that these represent severity, or what I like to call them, ruthless. And then this pillar over here represents mercy, which is compassion, in my opinion. So, Hokmah is wisdom. Now, to me, wisdom is just this, I don't know, it's just like, it's knowledge in its most base form. That's it. It's knowledge. Now, with wisdom, that's coming from that light of Keter, okay? We get this divine light, and then we kind of mold that within our own self into wisdom, into thought, into desire, okay? And desire is only that at this point. Now, when we look at the 2s, we can kind of see that. This concept that we're just getting started, okay? Like when we think of the Suit of Swords, I kind of think of this in like war, right? We're thinking of it in like war. We're thinking of it in like critical thinking. And then we've got change here. We're changing things up, right? With the disc suit, with the pentacle suit. And where would the wisdom lie in that? Okay? And love and in dominion, right? This temple that we seem to have within ourselves, to me, we have this knowledge of how, or maybe this vision, right? This vision. And we haven't done anything with this vision, with this download that we've gotten, but we know we've gotten it. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Let's do it this way so I can see what I'm doing. Now the threes, we go over to Binah. Now Binah is the first Sephiroth we see on the pillar of severity or ruthlessness. And that's understanding. That is knowing our vision and interpreting. So this is interpretation, in my opinion. This is how we're going to change and adapt our vision, our dream, into something tangible that we can work on now, which is kind of why I think this is called work in this three of discs. But then we have sorrow, right? In terms of critical thinking, the sorrow would be like, oh, we've gotten that vision and it's filled us with this sorrow. And then abundance, okay? Just like with emotions, the way in which we interpret our emotions, okay? We could think about abundance, gaining. This is our vision and how we interpret that in terms of gaining and manifesting, right? And then we have virtue, okay? This sense of pureness that we get, this sense of like the pure essence of something. I believe that that's what this is, okay? Now we're going to go a little bit faster here because we need to be able to work a little bit. Work a little bit faster. Okay. Then we go all the way down to Hesed. Hesed is mercy, which I think is what the pillar is representing. Okay. The sense of compassion, and once we've had the vision and we've interpreted it, and then what happens then? We have to kind of love it in a way. We kind of have to accept it in a way. And there's a divine acceptance in what we're seeing and what we're understanding, what we're visualizing, what we're manifesting. There's this divine mercy that we have within our own selves that will allow all the rest of the Sephiroths to happen. Okay? It's almost kind of like self-love to me, which is truce. A lot of what this Sephiroth represents is in truce to me. This concept of, okay, we've gotten a vision, we're trying to manifest something, we understand how we might be able to go about that. No work's actually happening as of yet, but we're trying to love ourselves through it. We're trying to hold some compassion for ourselves, right? Which is kind of like completion to me. Completion to me represents like, we've gotten the will, and we understand the will. We understand what's backing this, what's driving this, but we need some forward movement. The completion here is our will is complete. We actually have will now. Now we have to do something about it, right? And then luxury, again, when we're talking about emotions, this is like, and we kind of let out the abundance from the three overturn, right? We think we know what we're feeling, but our emotions are so complex that we're probably never going to fully understand them, right? So that's kind of what luxury means to me, is that it's like we have this overpouring of emotions and we just kind of don't really know. We think we know what our emotions are trying to tell us, okay? Because with wisdom and understanding in 2 and 3, we think we know, but we really don't know. There's so much complexity with that. And then power, okay, is this structural being that we've built with our manifestation skills. We've built this structure around ourselves. We've built this protective wall around us. Okay? It's kind of like we're actually building boundaries now, right? So, these are just like my literally quick interpretations of what these mean. Okay. Then the fives. Now the fives are it's like pivotal moments in my opinion. Like we're getting them and it's like, ooh, it could go either way, basically. But technically the fives are like these pivotal moments in our lives where we're stuck at forks in the road and it's going to lead to one of these keywords, basically. But inside this lightning path, we're going over to Givara. Now, Givara is strength, but when it's ruled by Mars, I think more of assertiveness. I think more of like what Mars would represent. It's getting things done. That's what Mars is to me. That's getting things done. It's action. And when it's stuck over here in the pillar of severity, okay, we've got this strength. We've got this will, this not really will, but we've got this strength inside of us and we want to do something. We want to just, now we have this wanting to do. Like if we go back up, okay, we've gotten the light. We've gotten some wisdom. We've gotten these sparks of wisdom, okay? Then we learn how to understand that wisdom. Then we come down here and we're like, okay, well, let's just love ourselves. We'll love ourselves with this vision, We'll only be given what we can take. We'll only be given that which we can take, okay? Then we go over here and it's like, okay, now we're wanting to be actionable, okay? But once that action is put inside of us, we started to love ourselves. We gotten cocky, right? Now we have this outpouring of this drive and it's kind of overtaken us, okay? Like with strife. This is literally, to me, the embodiment of like, you want to pick a fight. You want to pick a fight because you want to just get things done. And then defeat, same kind of concept. You want to be able to defeat your enemies, okay? Whatever they are, okay? I don't mean like enemies. I mean regular enemies. Just enemies, everyday enemies. Enemies of the self of every day. That could be yourself too. Fighting within yourself. But you want to defeat those enemies. You want to do something about the enemies. And then disappointment, okay? You want to wade. You want to complain, right? You want to complain about things because you think that that's how it's going to get things done. And then you worry. Your mind in critical thinking, you're obsessing about the stuff because that's an action, right? We don't think of worry as an action, but I think of it as like when we're wanting to get things done, we have Mars on our back, right? We're wanting to get things done. We have this strength, we're like Rosie the Riveter. We've got our arms up. We're wanting to arm wrestle, but still in terms of our mental capabilities, we're worrying and obsessing about stuff. So it's kind of what I see here. Okay, let's move on. 6. These are beautiful cards in my opinion. The 6s are some of my favorite cards. We come down to Sephirot. Now Sephirot is beauty. Beauty to me is different than what I guess what normal people would say is beauty. It's not like Fibonacci sequence beauty. It's beauty of the world, right? It's beauty in our pleasures, in our simple pleasures. It's beauty when we finally succeed at something, when we finally accomplish something, right? And then the science. We're happy. We're happy of the forward movement of technology, right? We see the technologies and we're chasing it. And that's beautiful. Then we have victory, which again is like success. These kind of mirror one another, in my opinion. This concept of accomplishing something, but actually winning at it actually winning it. It's like getting a trophy. Like, this is the embodiment of getting a trophy, not a participation trophy. You've earned the trophy now. Like, you've worked really, really hard and you've earned the trophy. And that's what beauty is. It's, with it ruled by the sun, this is just like this divine light. And with it coming from Keter, okay, it's all the way down. It's linked by the high priestess, but Keter, Sephirot is linked directly to Keter. So the sun here is kind of like a prism. It's kind of like a prism where the light of Keter pours into the sun, and then we get the emanation of the sunlight. So it's almost like the sun itself, like the physical body of the sun, is the light of Keter. We're just getting like a small facet of it. And it's like getting that ray of sunshine. It's exactly what it is. Okay, moving on. So I said we were going to go faster. The sevens. Ooh, we're getting some sludge here. Now, with this, we saw victory with like the 6 of Wands, right? But with it being Venus and with it being victory as like just a generalized keyword here for Netzach, which is the 7th Sephirot, it kind of makes me think, because Venus is like all about love and compassion and things like that, right? But we have victory. But I think that it's this victorious mindset that we have with all aspects of our life. It's not necessarily accomplishment. It's just about the feeling of actually being victorious. This like almost like self-love, you know? This is what the 7 is. But with self-love, there's so much self-doubt because there's always a flip side of the coin. And with that, okay, with this sense of victory, we have this. We have failure. Failure to do those things. Failure to be virtuous. Failure to succeed. Okay? Then we have debauch. We got cocky. We got cocky and some stuff has happened and we let it all go to sludge. And then futility. Uselessness. Literally uselessness. We've gotten to that place where we believe to be victorious in something, but really, in reality, we've become useless to the situation. We may have succeeded somewhere along the way, but we're useless now. It's like we're no longer adding anything to the situation. And then valor. Valor, to me, is victory, is like nameless victory. It's like an anonymous victory. That's what valor is to me. It's something, it's a feeling that you have to do something that you believe is right, but you don't have to stamp your name on it, right? You don't have to, take any credit. So this is uncredited victory, which I think makes sense. You have this love for whatever concept, whatever fight, whatever riot that you want to involve yourself in, like the rights of people, but you don't have to stamp your name on it. You can just do it in the background. I believe that's a beautiful thing. It's still victory. You're just not getting credited by others. So, I don't know. I think they're all beautiful concepts. Technically, I guess. Now, we come to the 8. Now, we've gone this way, all the way down. Excuse me. And then we go way over to splendor, which is Hod, the 8th Sephirot. Now, splendor, when I first heard about splendor, back when I was studying all this, it makes me think that it's the same as beauty, like that beauty is splendor. But beauty is our own perception of what's beautiful, which, as everyone has said since whatever, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You are the only one that can say what you think is beautiful. So there's a specificity that's going to happen with beauty. But splendor is light. It's glittery, right? It's whatever's catching your eye at the moment. And when you get throwed with like this feeling of all that glitters is gold, which is what splendor is to me, then you get hit with these. Okay? You get hit with this sense of indolence because you just want to sit there and watch the splendor. You just want to sit there and watch things glitter. You're not doing anything. But then you want to be prudent. You want to savor what's glittering. You want to save it. You want to preserve it, right? And interference to me is you stopping the interference of whatever's glittering. If a dark cloud comes, you're going to chase the blue sky. Okay? You're not allowing the interference. Okay? And then swiftness. It's so fast. Swiftness. It's your relationship to splendor. That's swiftness here. There's a fleeting aspect to splendor. It's like watching like a sun catcher rainbow. They happen so fast. They're like hummingbirds, right? And it's you trying to catch it in its swiftness. It's like trying to catch a ferry, like stop a ferry in its tracks so that you can see it. So that's kind of what swiftness is. When we're talking in the Sephirots here. Like, you know, when you see a rainbow, it's such a fleeting thing that you want to savor it. So I think the eights and Hod itself is about savoring splendor when we come across it. But to watch out for all of this. Watch out for the fleeting nature of it. You have to enjoy splendor, but don't become complacent with it, and don't become this person that just wants to sit there and watch it and savor it and like turn into Gollum, you know? So I guess that's the message, well, what I would consider the message of the 8. And then we're going to go down. We're going to go down to Yesod, which is the 9th Sephiroth, which is the foundation. Now the foundation just means like ground level. We're on ground zero now. Okay? Because technically this is the ground. This is the end. This is the end. Okay? Which is the foundation, which is the moon. And to me, if you know tarot, you know that the moon is all about the mystery, right? It's illusions, right? We think we see this mirage over here, but it's just that. It's not an oasis. It's in our minds. It's just illusion. And I feel like that's what this is in terms of the Sephirot. So we have Yesod, the foundation, the end of all ends. Okay? We have gain. Gain. What are we gaining? If we look back at all the rest of the disc cards, okay, we have to look at it in a real way. We have to look at it in like, well, what have we really gained here? Not in this splendorous, all that glitters is gold type of a mindset. What have we actually gained? And then happiness. You're the only one, much like beauty, you're the only one that can tell what happiness has been for you. What happiness will be. What is happiness? Define it. What will a happy life mean? And then that's what your goal needs to be, right? But it's such a personal thing. And then cruelty. Again, I think that these are our interpretations of these things. When we think of the foundation, at the end of the life, we're like end of the life here. We're regrets on the deathbed, okay? What is your definition of cruelty? When you're on the deathbed, okay, to me, this is the end of life. What have you gained? When were you actually happy? When were you actually happy? Not giving away your happiness to make someone else happy, but when were you actually happy? When would you say in your life that you've known actual cruelty? And when have you showed strength? That's what these cards represent to me. This is end of life, deathbed musings here. Not to get macabre, but that's what I feel like. Okay? Again, now that we're kind of at the end of this and I've kind of talked, y'all's ears off, I want you to know that these are just my interpretations of, a decade or more of study. That's it. So if I'm wrong, then by all means, let us all know in the comments so we can keep, stay up to date on stuff. But this is like end of the life. What have you gained? When have you been happy? When have you actually known cruelty? What is the definition of that to you? When have you showed strength? What does that mean? Because I don't believe that victory and valor and strength are all the same thing. I believe they're all different things. You can be victorious and you can show valor. But were those moments of strength inside yourself? Now, last but not least, we have the pendulum, okay? The pendant at the bottom of the tree of life, which is Malkuth. Now, Malkuth is the lowest of the low. Now, to me, that just means that... Now, again, there's like 4 worlds here, okay? 4 whole worlds that are happening within this one that we see. However, when we look at Malkuth, that's the kingdom. And when I think of kingdom, my religious upbringing would tell me that the kingdom is the kingdom of heaven. But it's your kingdom. It's humanity's kingdom. It's your definition of kingdom. It is you being the hero of your own story. That's what Malkuth means to me. And we see that here. Okay? Oppressive, ruination, satisfaction, wealth. What do you see here? The extreme spectrum of life. The things that usually drive us. We're striving for wealth. We're striving for satisfaction, contentment, not happiness. We're so quick to ruin others to get what we want. And we're so quick to oppress others to get what we want. These hang so far below the tree of life that you almost miss the fact that these 4 things drive a lot of humans. These 4 concepts here drive most humans. The idea of wealth, satisfaction, ruining others to further yourself, and same with oppression. However, let's go back to the 9s, because I feel like with the foundation here, don't forget to look at what you've gained, strive for happiness, know when you've been cruel and others have been cruel to you, define this so that this isn't something that you're doing to yourself and others, and find some strength. Find some strength. When have you seen it in others? When have you seen it in yourself? So that the strength you have doesn't start to oppress you, doesn't start to wear you like a corset. So those are the 10 Sephiroths, okay? Putting them on my chair here so that we can get going with the rest of the stuff. Happiness, yeah. Happiness is the last one. And that's pretty much the Sephiroths in a nutshell. Okay, like I said, this was a nutshell video. But now, we're going to go into the court cards. Okay? And those are pretty easy because they represent... they represent Sephiroths all in themselves. They match a Sephiroth with a number card. Now the princesses, actually we'll do it this way. Do this way. Okay. Maybe we'll just do the disc suit so that we're not confusing people. The princesses sit on Malkuth. They sit in the kingdom. They're the future queens. So they're technically not princesses and they're not queens. They're the future queens. They represent so much. They have such huge jobs. They have to be the princess. They have to be the future queen. Okay, they represent so much of their astrology that is just unreal. They're like the magic fairy chefs of the tarot. Okay, they're beautiful, but they sit on the kingdom. Okay, so that's where the princesses sit. The prince sits in beauty. Now, I've heard it said before that they're so far removed from each other because these are technically siblings / cohorts. But to me, they're not really siblings. They could just be like, you know, second cousins or some shit. Like, they're distant family. No incestuous tarot here. But I feel like with her being the future queen, okay, and the princes to me are the princes and the knights, which are the kings. So they're both, like she's both. But with him sitting at beauty, there's a nice, not a nice, but I feel like the princesses are such a mixture of everything. Like, they can be hot mess princesses, okay? Sticks in their hair, dirt under their fingernails type of princesses, or they can be prim and proper, right? But the princes, they're shiny all the time. They're shiny pennies. And these are the pennies that you find in the laundromat, okay? Still pennies and still beautiful, but they're beautiful because they're the ones getting used. They're the ones mixing stuff up. They're the ones actually, you know, getting used out there by people. So I think that's the beauty of the princesses. And then the princes, of course, are just the shiny pennies that you don't want to touch. You just want to have in a bucket somewhere. So that's kind of where I feel. And then you have the queens, which sit at Benin. Okay, so that's Saturn, understanding. To me, that's like the dark mother. Okay, so this is creation and destruction all in one body. That's what the queens mean to me. And then the knights, or the kings, respectively, sit at Hokmah, which is wisdom. The embodiment of the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity. So, those are the core cards. Let's see if we can... And then we'll go into the paths, which is just really as simple as locking two Sephiroths together. And we'll do that in just a minute. Okay, so we're back. Cleared it off. Okay, we still have Lon Milo DeCat's book right here. We got the major arcana, and we're going through the paths. Okay, so the first thing that we want to know about the paths is that up here, the supernal triad to me represents the three top Sephiroths, but when we look at the paths, that would contain, in my opinion, I don't believe the Empress is part of the triad. It's the Fool, which is this path, or it's kind of path 1 to me, but also path 11, because it's a continuation after the Sephiroths, so it's also path 11. So path 1 is the Fool, and then the Magician, and then right after that is the High Priestess that runs from Keter to Sephirot. Okay, so that's the supernal triad, and everything below that is the abyss. Now, when we get to Malkuth, which I said before that the kingdom is kind of like the earthly realm, but it could also be the beginning and the end, you know, the alpha and the omega, because it's going to be mirrored right back up to Keter. So it's like Keter and all the Malkuths sit on top of one another as the kingdom of God, but also the kingdom where we reside as well. Like your kingdom that is your whole self, I believe. Okay. A lot of this is my opinion through research, like I said before. So I hope you get something out of this. I'm just glad y'all are here. Okay. So we have the Fool. Now the Fool is not manifest. I've said this in a lot of my Thoth videos. It's not manifest. It's not part of this realm. And it's technically not even part of spirit either. It's a gateway. It's almost like a portal. I believe that that's why Crowley made this vision of this tunnel thing, is to represent the gateway between spirit and manifestation, but it's neither one of those things at all. Okay, so that represents this path here. The path 1 or path 11, whatever you want to call it. Now, what I'd like to do in terms of learning the tree of life, studying the tree of life, and you can feel free to do this on your own time as well, but like meditate or ruminate, think about what Ketcher means to you in terms of a Sephiroth, and then what Hokmah, which is wisdom. But in this instance, wisdom to me is manifestation, the way in which we gain inspiration. So it's not so much like wisdom as in knowledge, like we know of it, like gnosis. It can also be personal gnosis, but it's a little bit more abstract than that to me because it sits way up here. But then when you link the two with a path, it's a highway connecting the two stop signs. Okay, or yield signs, really. They're yield signs, not stop signs. And what would those two represent, right? So when we're talking about wisdom or inspiration, the idea of the divine spark that will actually come from spirit, then the full path makes sense being the gateway. The gateway here between the light that is Keter, okay, and then the limitlessness of light that's beyond Keter, and then Hokmah, which is that first spark of wisdom that we get. But nothing's actually happening yet. We're not actually thinking yet. And then we go over here. We're mirrored over here on the pillar of severity between Keter and Banah, which is understanding, which is finally where we're able, okay, to gain a thought, gain an idea. The inspiration has turned into an idea. It's turned into a desire, if you want to go the law of attraction way. And that is the magician or the magus, respectively. Also, further note, I was going to make a whole video about this, but it always kind of grinded my gears that the magus was called the magus instead of the magician. But when we think of it, just real fast, the magus is the first word we have in any language of a magical practitioner. Now, magus refers to the magi, which is going back to like early Iran Zoroastrianism, where the magi were magical practitioners of all of the magical systems. So esotericism, occultism, alchemy, astrology, and things like that. So they practiced this. They had their own little, I guess you would call it a religion, or maybe Zoroastrianism is more of a philosophical movement, I guess, in my opinion. But that's our earliest known word, the magus, being the singular form of the magi, of a magical practitioner. So I believe that that's why Crowley used the term magus. So as the singular to the magi, this magical practitioner of so much more than like witchcraft. It's all of the forms of magic in one being. And we can also think of it that way as well. When we're thinking about understanding this spark coming down, we're getting downloads, we're getting inspired, we're actually turning our things into ideas. That's what the magus does with the wisdom that we've already incurred from the gateway, right? And then the path down here, and you see, it kind of confused me at first that the Empress kind of like, goes across the two paths leading understanding and wisdom. But that's after we encounter the High Priestess. Okay? So when we're encountering the High Priestess, it's because after we get out of the gateway and we finally recognize this spark of inspiration within ourselves, all the ways in which we can practice magic, all the ways in which we can manifest and have ideas and turn our thoughts into desires and things like that, there has to be a veil that puts over that. There's an aspect of the seeker in humanity, in humans, that there has to be that area of mystery. If there's not, and we knew all the answers and there was an answer for everything, then the seeker archetype that lives in all humans won't be there. So the air of mystery is personified in the High Priestess, in my opinion. Okay, so this is the supernal triad. These three cards, basically. Now you could look at it like the magus and the priestess are counterparts, right? But if you look at the pillar or the pillars, then this being severity, this being mercy, this being mildness, or what I'd like to call the harmony pillar that sits in the middle of these two, they're not actually mirrored. The magus sits on this, on this side, but it's really mirrored with the fool, not the high priestess. So to me, they're not really opposites as in cohorts, okay? But I don't know. Not, you know, or cohorts. Why did I say cohort? Consorts. Anyway, I think that to me, it represents, she's the personification of the veil, okay? Then we're going this way. We're cutting across a lane, a spaghetti junction across. If you don't live in the ATL, you don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's just like spaghetti junction in it over the high priestess. Now, one thing to note about the high priestess is that she runs a highway right through the unknowable Sephiroth, which is Dyad. Now, Dyad does represent knowledge, in my opinion. This is personal gnosis, okay? But we're not going to know that. It's invisible. Because personal gnosis is such an individual thing. It's such a selfish thing that we're not going to know what everybody's personal gnosis is. You can't ever know what someone else's personal gnosis is. So, it's highly individualized. But anyway, that's to note that. But we run a highway across, okay? Like a freeway right across, or over, not across, over the high priestess with the Empress card. Now, as the Empress covers the highway of the veil, then this is the first experience we have with both understanding and wisdom together. Bam. We are taking these sparks. We're taking the gateway. We're coming out of the gateway. We're manifesting, and we're not actually manifesting yet. I'm sorry. But we're coming at our understanding and wisdom with compassion, with grace. We have that inside of us. We learn what love is. You want to know what love is? Okay, anyways. So that's the first time we see both pillars together, is in the Empress, is in the nurturing form of the Empress. This receptive form of the Empress. Okay? Now, one thing I guess to note is that in Crowley's deck, the Emperor doesn't live here where he does in some forms of the Tree of Life. He's way down here. Between Yesod, which is the foundation, which, like I said before, is like kind of the ground, this is ground level, ground zero, and Victory, which is Venus at Netzach, the seventh Sephiroth. So Crowley put him all the way down here, the Emperor. Okay? Now we're going to move these out of the way because, we're trying to kind of, we're trying to do this the right way, I guess. So the Emperor sits way down between foundation and Victory because he's control. There's a control aspect, right? We don't need that control because what's happening above, okay? We have no need of it yet, right? We're still just kind of like floating in the amniotic fluid at this point. The control, the force that we need to back up manifestation doesn't need to happen yet because we're still kind of floating here. So that's kind of where I want to go with this. We're receiving these downloads, uploads, inspiration, sparks. We're just like the spark that starts the coal that's going to eventually be the fire, but we're nowhere near the fire yet. So I think that this is kind of why Crowley put the Emperor way, way down below, because, he's all about the fire. So he represents this path right here between Yesod and Netzach. So let's go. We're going to go back up, okay, to the Hierophant. Now the Hierophant lives right here between Chokmah, which is wisdom, and mercy, which is Hesed, which is the fourth Sephiroth. Now, when you think about mercy, like I said before, that can be compassion, but it can also be stability because it's a 4. But I believe that this Sephiroth of mercy could also be like justice, lawfulness. It's where we begin to see our values in things, where we're floating in this amniotic fluid, metaphorically, and we're starting to understand what we want to see in things, how we would like things to be executed. And I think it's so important that the Hierophant is that source between this wisdom here, Okay. Now, if I kind of look at it this way too, he's connected, the Hierophant, between these two, but then also he kind of links back up to Catcher through the Fool. So if you think of it that way, let's get back to the Fool. Then the gateway here, a little bit, you can run up the stairs right to the Fool. So it's almost like the Hierophant inadvertently is this conduit between the divine, okay, using wisdom, using the power of wisdom, using the draw. He's able to draw forth from the accretion disk that is the black hole, that is the Fool. He's able to draw forth the information, but use justice and lawfulness to establish our values within ourselves. It's like the personification of that within us. Okay? Now, move that aside. Okay, now we have the Lovers. The Lovers card sits on this path between understanding this. I feel like this is beauty, which, like I said before, is a personal thing. Beauty is a personal interpretation. We have this beauty, compassionate nature for what we are understanding. We have an actual commitment now. We formed a commitment with all that has come before us. Using the power of the great, like our great mother of the tarot, the Empress, okay? We're using the compassionate nature of her. We're also using the mystery, allowing the veil, right? We're looking out over the black hole that is the Fool, okay? And we're using all of this, and we formed a commitment to ourselves. We have formed a commitment to the drive, to the will, where we've signed the contract. So I believe that that's what the Lovers represents. Okay. Now then we have the Chariot, which to me, let's do this. We'll do this because that's going this way, like this. Okay. And then we had the Hierophant over here between Hokmah and Hesed, right? This conduit of lawfulness over here. But then mirroring the Hierophant is the Chariot card. Now the Chariot card is all about, to me, forward movement. We've got some stuff to work on now. And with Mars being the driving force, that's what the Chariot is representing. It's the driving force that we have. This is fuel. And I like how the sense of justice, the sense of morality and values that we found within ourselves in the Hierophant is linked with the Chariot on the Tree of Life. Isn't that I just think that's beautiful. I think that it needs to be there. I think that the fuel that lives in the bottom of all of us, the fuel that's going to eventually drive our chariot, our cart, if you will, has to be there. So that's the embodiment. Like if the Chariot is the Fool, or no, the Chariot is not the Fool. The Chariot, if the Chariot is the fuel, not the Fool, to me, that would be like the Hierophant is the vessel, which houses the fuel. He's spark plugs. No, maybe the Magus is the spark plugs. Anyways, we're not going to go on the car analogy, okay? Now, as the Chariot sits over here, the Lovers is V'ing out between understanding and beauty, okay? It's compassion. We have kind of a thing happening here, right? Now, over here where the Empress would, or the Emperor would usually sit, is the Star card, okay? So I'm going to get the Star card out. I know we're bouncing around right now, but bear with. So I have that, this, and this. So we're going to V those out. Okay, now the Star is, to me, hope. It's hope that lies in all of the universe. Okay, we've found the vessel, we've gotten the fuel, we've gotten the compassion, right, that we have to have. Because if we don't have compassion for what we're going towards, what we're manifesting, it's not really a desire, right? But then we have to have hope. That's intention. Hope is intention. It's intention for the future. If we don't have hope, how can we manifest something for tomorrow? This is manifestation for the future. Future planning. And we have to have both to fuel the machine. So, That's really what I wanted to say about that. And all that happens up here, okay, between all of this. We can even add the High Priestess in there as like this, as another form of mystery that we see in these right here, in this part of the Tree of Life. But anyways, I digress. We're going to move on. Now this little path right here is the next path. Strength, driving force of Mars to beauty. Okay? Finding the beauty within your own strength. And there's this harmony. There's this sense of peace that we have once we've found our strength. We know it's there, but once we've found it, we're holding the compassion, we're holding the fuel in the vessel, okay? We have to hold the balance. We have to become the Two of Pentacles in this moment. With the universe, with ourselves, we have to learn how to juggle with our strength. Because too much strength is hate, or can lead. I don't want to say it's hate, but it can lead to hate, right? So you're always constantly having to juggle between too much force, too much action, and then receiving that action and thinking about what you're going to do, thinking about what you're going to manifest. That's adjustment. That's why, to me, this is not a justice card. It's more so a balance card. Okay? You're always having to tip the scales. Okay? So that leads right there. Again, we could go over here and mirror, or we're going to go over here. We're going to go over here now and mirror justice card with the Hermit. Okay? Because I believe that with adjustment, this sense of adjusting what we have now, okay, all that we've endured, we encounter the Hermit as this being within us that's our one true self. It's finding the light. Because to me, along with splendor, I'm sorry, that's dog paws. Along with splendor, which we see down here, splendor is like this like radiance, right? Like this like blinding. To me, it's like blinding radiance. But beauty is actual beauty. Beauty the way you see it. And when we link that with mercy, that's not a driving force. Jupiter is expansion. It's luck, right? It's change, but a change for better or worse, right? So there is some adjustment there because Jupiter could go either way. But it is going to expand, whether for good or for ill. And the Hermit is that moment that we must take while adjusting to find out which way it's going to go. Okay? Because again, we're not moving the chariot yet. We're not moving the vessel. We're not moving the cart that is us. Because we have to learn to adjust. We have to learn where the pedals are. Why am I going with the car analogy? And then we have to learn how to hold ourselves, our true selves accountable. To an extent, I guess. Find our true selves within that adjustment and find which way the path's going to go. But we're not going to know that without turning inwards. We're not going to know that without finding our true essence, our true light. Right? Okay. I love that Sephirot here sits in the middle. Right? It sits kind of in the middle of it all. And it's directly linked to Keter. Right? It's just so beautiful how Sephirot, which is beauty. It's the beauty of everything. It's the beauty of the purple mountains. It's the beauty of water. It's the beauty of the elements. It's the beauty of life. Okay? But anyways, let me not get into a philosophical rant. Okay? Now, once we know which way Jupiter is going to take us, okay, we're expanding in a good or ill way, right? In terms of our will, in terms of what we're manifesting. Then we have to do what? We have to go on the wheel. We have to. See, usually we start over here and then mirror ourselves over here. Now we're going to go down this way. Between mercy, this sense of expansion that we have with ourselves, and victory. We're victorious now. We're full of this compassion. We're full of this love. We're full of this drive. We're full of this power. Okay? Actually, no, it's not power yet. But anyways, once we've adjusted and we've gone inward and found our essence, we learn the wheel. We learn about the wheel. Will, not willpower, the wheel. Okay? We learn about fortune. Right? I love that it's on the same pillar as the Hierophant. It nods back to him, I believe. It links to him, I believe. It links this sense of lawfulness, this sense of fate, fortune, this sense of whether or not Jupiter is expanding, whichever way the ripple is going. The wheel is going to continue to move. Our fortunes are always changing, right? When we learn how to adjust through the adjustment card, we're adjusting within ourselves, right? And then, okay, we're finding our light. But then we learn this is macrocosm now. We're in the macrocosm of the universe down here. The macrocosm. We found it within ourselves. Now we've seen that fortunes of everyone is going to continue to move. This is a macrocosm now. This is not microcosm any longer like it was in Adjustment and the Hermit. Okay? So we're moving. We're moving and shaking that wheel, right? Which is down here. But we don't mirror just yet. Because this is actually 12. And we need 11, right? Now 11 is lust, of course. Now we had the wheel. The wheel sits over here. Now we could look at 12 really fast, okay? Is the Hangman. They're mirroring each other, okay? We have this macrocosm sense of fate and fortune here. Sense of expanding Jupiter. And then we have the Hangman sitting over here. Mirroring the will. The sense of surrender, right? The sense of absolute radiance that we find within ourselves and the macrocosm. And with the strength of Mars, this driving force of Mars, we're seeing the radiance come forth. The will, we've jutted out, we're on the top of the will in this card, to me, okay? We're on the top of the will. We're on the top of the world. And it mirrors the wheel in that sense that if the will is fortunes and moving and fate, right? Then the Hangman is the suspension of all that. It's that breath. It's the breath. It's the hesitation of life. The hesitations of life, right? Anyway, that sits here. But then across, right here on top of Sephirot, okay, on top of both of these, so we'll move these down. Because, see, here are these two cards sit right here. But then on top of them, above Sephirot, not running through Sephirot, which I guess is important, that links this driving force with the expansion of Jupiter, okay? So I envision, if you've ever seen that movie, The Fifth Element, which is a cult movie that I freaking love, all right? There's a scene in that movie where the planet, the bad planet, the planet where Shadow lives, or Mr. Shadow, is expanding. And there's nothing these people can do. It's just going to expand until it explodes. I don't know about you. It sounds like lust to me. Just keep expanding. Keep loving what you're doing. But hold this sense of lust for life. Hold that sense of lust until you explode. We'll learn to control that shit later, you know? But lust it's a building. Okay? It's a building that we find within ourselves. It's a quivering that we find within ourselves that's building to a climax. Okay? You could look at this literally or figuratively if you want to. But expansion with strength, wow. Makes a lot of sense for it to be a lust card, not a strength card, because strength sits over here as the driving force of Mars. But we're linking it with mercy. We're linking it with the expansiveness of Jupiter. We're linking it with this sense of the sense of compassion a little bit for the expansive nature of the universe, luck, and change. But it just makes sense for this to be a building up of strength that just becomes like this thing that we can't control, right? It's that pivotal moment in everyone's life where we get almost over the hump. of climax. Okay, not to get too graphic with you. But, so, these cards sit here. Okay, now we've already done these two as the adjustment and wheel. Okay, and next we're going to go this way, and then we're going to go this way. So, we'll leave this up here just so you can see a tiny little bit of it. And then we're going to kind of go like lust sits here. Adjustment. I don't even know if we'll be able to do this in frame. Adjustment sits here. The wheels, hermit sits there. And then down here is death. Actually, it goes this way. No, it does. It goes this way. We'll do it this way. Okay. There, so you can see the names. So death goes that way. It goes from beauty, because beauty is like this ball of light that is the beauty that we all perceive. Okay. It links it with victory. I believe that victory here, Venus, is benevolence. All right. It's the sense of goodness. And mixed with beauty, that there's a triumph that's happening in the death card. And the triumph is what the transformation is. The sense of triumph that we have within ourselves, because we've encountered so much goodness, you know. But then we're going the other way. We want a mirror here, but it's not actually happening yet. This goodness here that we see, this benevolence, the sense of triumph between beauty and victory here. There's a line down here that holds art, which is the next card, okay? But it sits below here, which we'll get to in a minute. But the mirror of death, we'll go this way, is the devil. Because that's linking radiance with beauty. When before we've seen the sense of benevolence, I believe the mirror to that is malevolence. But it's not evil. It's just that, again, we're adjusting. Can't always be benevolent, right? Sometimes we have to let go. Sometimes we have to let go and go over the hump. This is the moment of climax. Look at all of what's happened before we get here. We're chasing it. We're expanding. We're quivering, right? We're chasing it. We're surrendering. And then finally, we have to let go. We have to let go. We cannot stop this. We cannot stop this energy. Right? That's what splendor is. This radiance that we cannot stop. It's an explosion. Between beauty and splendor, it's just like a blinding light. This blinding light. Okay? I don't know. I mean, if you want to, you could go even graphic with this. You could go sex magic with it. This could be like, you know, pearl necklace. I don't know. Whatever you want to say. It's that pivotal moment, people. Okay? So all this is happening. We're expanding, quivering, fighting for it, surrendering to it, and then we have to let go, right? We have to let go, surrender, transform ourselves. We have to die a little every day. And only then can we get this. Okay? Now, let's move all these out of the way. I hope y'all are keeping up. I do. I mean, I feel like I'm going fast. That's all I mean. So all this sits in this square here. Okay? But then underneath of it all, so basically in between the devil and the adjustment, or the not adjustment, it was transformation of death. And I'm sorry, this path right here is not the art card. It doesn't sit on top of them. So let me back up a little second. So we have these two, right? Art sits this way, not this way. I'm so sorry, but it sits this way on this path right here. Right? Still linking them. Still linking. Art still links them. But what sits on top, okay? So I'm sorry I'm backtracking, but just bear with. This path right here between beauty and the foundation sits kind of in between, like, I guess like this. Death and the expansiveness of the devil. This surrendering, this letting go. We have art card, which is usually temperance, is the ultimate balance. It does make sense that it sits this way. So I'm sorry, I don't know why I read that wrong. But anyways, so this is temperance or art in the Thoth deck. And it sits like this, cutting them in two. Just like this card is. It makes perfect sense. But then sitting across, splendor with victory. Okay? Splendor with victory. I have no idea why I was thinking. Splendor with victory. This sense of radiance, triumph, right? This explosiveness has gotten out of hand now. And what happens when an explosion gets out of hand? We were baking in the cauldron that is our new selves by letting go and dying a little, okay? We've exploded into something totally different. We've lost aspects of ourselves, right? Which can be a good thing. This can be a good thing. This destructive nature that we find ourselves in now at the Tower card, it sits on top of art to represent the cauldron that is you has exploded. It has exploded and you have to let go and just let it happen, right? We're in the letting go stages now. Now, with this, what happens after an explosion? If you think to movies and things like that, what happens after an explosion? Ash, right? There's always this pivotal scene where it's all foggy or misty or ashy and you can't see any of the main characters, right? I think I'll know where I'm going with this. Okay? There's a fog that happens. Okay, so I'm going to move these two out of the way. There's a fog that's happening after this explosion that sits on top of the art card. Not down here. Okay? But this way. We're going this way. With the moon. The moon represents that small moment. It's a small moment. It's just a few seconds worth of fog where you don't know what's going to happen. If the main characters made it or if they died in the explosion, right? You don't know this within yourself. You don't know if you can bounce back from it yet, right? This is that moment. This is the moment, the breath moment that you have before you meet Mayat, okay, in the Egyptian pantheon. This is the moment right before she's going to rip your heart out to weigh it against a feather. And you must take that moment and recognize the fog, recognize the mist that is within you, the mysteries that are within you, and go, was all of that necessary? Was it important? Where's my strength, right? Where's my sense of victory? You go all the way back up the tree and you think back on your life to all that you've accomplished, all the things that actually matter. That's that moment of fog. Right after an explosion is that moment of fog where you don't know anything. And that sits all the way down here, okay? This path right here between the kingdom, right? Because right now, after the explosion, you have no idea what the kingdom will be after the explosion. But there's also a sense of victory here. There's almost a relief that it's all over. You're happy it's happy it's all over. And whether or not the kingdom, the castle, whatever is still standing, you're just glad that it's done. That's this breath of relief, okay? Now, with only 3 cards left, let's imagine where they go, all right? Now, let's move this up a little because we can kind of see this still art and the tower, the explosion, the fog down here. We'll move the moon all the way down here, okay? So you can see this. The next card is the sun, right? Now, where's the sun? The sun is right here. Because as the fog lifts, we see what's left. The light illuminates what is left of us as the foundation. And I love how the foundation in and of itself as the Sephirot, it represents the moon, which is mystery, okay? Also represents silver if you want to go the alchemical way. But anyway, so if we have this moon, but the sun, it's that radiance from splendor that we're gaining. Okay. And now who do you think that we encounter? Because the heat of the sun is illuminating all of that which we see that is present after the explosion. We then encounter the Emperor. Between the foundation and victory. We need him. We need his power now. He needs to stand up. He may be bleeding. He may have all kinds of wounds from this battle that we just encountered, okay? There's so much fog. He's laying there on his deathbed, right? But he will get up because he sees what's left. And it is his divine right to keep fighting. He has to do this. He has to keep going. It's in his nature. This triumph has not happened yet. But his drive and his power are there for all of us. Inside all of us. Okay, now, move this up a little bit more. We have the moon down here as the path that goes this way, right here. Then the next is the Aeon. Okay, now where would the Aeon go? Does the Aeon mirror the moon? Yes, it does. It leads from splendor, the light of radiance, all the way down to kingdom. Okay, so the fog, the sense of mystery, the sense of breath, the sense of hesitation that we're enduring, or that we did endure. We've seen the light. We've gotten the power of the Emperor behind us now. Inside of us. We've got a warrior inside of us. I don't believe he's war. I don't believe he's war. I believe he's a warrior. There's a difference. And he will drive our new Aeon. He's standing with an army behind him of the new Aeon. But he wouldn't have gotten here. We wouldn't have seen the sun without the moon. And then finally, we have the universe. Okay? Let's move these out of the way. We have the universe. Ooh, this divine Saturn priestess here. Okay? This divine spiral dancing maiden here. We have her twirling way, way far away. These paths right here, leading from foundation to the kingdom. Because she's not the end. She's a spiraling nature. Okay? Of all that we've endured so far. She's everything and nothing. And she links back to the Fool. One and the same. The beginning, which is not the beginning, and the end, which is not the end. Links down here to the pendant of Malkuth from foundation. She, this maiden here, is what's holding the pendant of our kingdom here. The chain that is going to hold us up, but also drop us if she must. So, okay. Well, I know it was a long video. I hope y'all stuck with me. I hope you got something out of this. If you have anything to add on the Tree of Life in general, please do it below. I love to get insights from people in the comments. That also helps, other watchers as well. So I hope that you had fun. I hope that you had fun learning a little bit of the Tree of Life with the Thoth deck with me today. And like I said, leave us all the clues down below. And don't forget to check the resource section of this video for some articles that I've used. Much love, people.